Hello and welcome to the Ferret Business Podcast. I am your host, Yemmy the Ferret, aka Yemmy, aka DJ Yemmy. And with me today is the second half of Rapscallions. Yes, I already interviewed Kevin. That was like episode 10 or something like that. So you can go back and watch that if you want the NES Journey to Rapscallions part of that. But this is part 2 of the Rapscallions interview with the second half. Rapscallions, they do Let's Plays, unboxing videos. Recently they did an unboxing video, or at least Kevin did. They did a full playthrough of Super Mario World live. Pretty freaking sweet. They play a whole bunch of games, Let's Plays and stuff like that. So, hey, I'm welcoming on to the podcast today. Like I said, he's the second half of Rapscallions. It's Brett.
Hey, what's up, guys? How you guys doing tonight?
His links will be down below, the social meteors. That'll be YouTube and Twitter. And since they are a combined channel, they'll, I don't think you don't want your personal Twitter or anything out there, right?
Oh, that's fine by me. I don't really use it. As Kevin will tell you, I'm pretty illiterate when it comes to social media.
I'll just link the regular Rapscallion stuff, no problem.
All right.
So the first question I have for you today is, what does your shirt say today?
What does my shirt say today? That's funny you ask, because not much. It just says O'Neal.
O'Neal? Like Shaquille O'Neal?
Yeah, just like Shaquille O'Neal.
Oh my gosh, have you played the new Shaq Fu game?
Didn't know there was a new Shaq Fu game.
There's a new Shaq Fu game. I haven't personally played it yet, but after the whole debacle that was the first game, I was surprised that he even wanted them to do a second game.
Seriously, it's only been almost 20 years since the first one?
Yeah, really.
That's crazy.
Would you ever want to play the original Shaq Fu on your channel?
I actually probably could. I have it for Sega Genesis, so that could be a possibility.
That is a Yemmy request.
I'll have to work out the logistics to get my Genesis to work with the Elgato, because I'm pretty sure my Genesis just has a RF adapter. It doesn't actually have AV cords, so we could figure something out.
I'm sure there's some way you could cadaver it, whatever it's called, conniver it. I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah, definitely.
So I was talking to Kevin, like I said, a few episodes ago, well, more than a few, and we kind of learned about how he started his channel under the name NES Journey, and that was before you had joined him and you guys had changed the name to Rapscallions. So how did the name Rapscallions come about after NES Journey was changed?
Oh man, so we threw out tons of names. We just went through a bunch of names. We couldn't figure out what we wanted to finally call ourselves. And one episode of our live streaming, back when we were drunk guy gaming, I just randomly threw out the name Rapscallions. I don't know. We were drinking and it just popped out of my mouth. And I don't know if there was any reference point to that, me saying that or what. But anyways, I actually went back to the stream that we had done the next day and watched the video over again, because I forgot what it was that I said. And I saw the name or the word Rapscallions, and I was like, I kind of like that. And we looked into it. Kind of some of the backstory to Rapscallions is it's basically they're rascals, and that's kind of what we are, I guess. So that's where that came from.
And where do the Raptors come in?
I don't know. A lot of the things that we have on our channel as far as representation of ourselves, it's just completely random. I think Kevin actually came up with the Raptors at some point and put the hats on them. So yeah, it's completely random.
All right, well, hey, I like the Raptors. The Raptors are cool. The Raptors are cool.
Yeah, I like them too. They kind of became us, I guess.
So how did you and Kevin meet and become friends?
We had a mutual friend, our friend Willie. He owns a video game store, and before him and I met, we both knew Willie, and I actually repair video game systems, and Willie told Kevin, because Kevin was looking for somebody to repair some video game systems. Willie told Kevin about me, and we got in touch through Willie, and I repaired some of his systems. Funny story though, Kevin actually, at the time gave me 3 Super Nintendos to fix, and they all had, I think, power adapter outlet problems. So I was actually fixing the power adapter outlets, and I short-circuited one of his motherboards in one of the Super Nintendos. And I just felt like a total jerk and didn't know what else to tell him other than the fact that I couldn't fix it. So that's what I told him. Then about, I don't know, 2 or 3 months ago, Kevin and I were talking, and I was referencing a story about this guy's Nintendos that I repaired, and not even thinking that it was actually Kevin's Nintendos that I repaired. And I had told him, basically, while I was telling the story, I told him that I had accidentally broke this guy's Super Nintendos, and then like it hit me in the face. I was like, oh shit, that was actually Kevin's Nintendos that I'm talking about. So
oops,
surprised that we're still surprised that he still wanted to be my friend after that.
Yeah, really. Well, you know, it was an honest mistake, right? It wasn't like you were trying to tamper with the
right.
motherboard.
Right.
So how tough is it to repair older systems like the NES or Genesis or anything like that?
Super easy, actually. I do all kinds of repairs. I can repair, new gen systems. Like I actually just worked on my PlayStation 4 the other day, and I'm about to do Kevin's Xbox One, and I've actually repasted like PlayStation 3 GPUs and CPUs and all that. So the old stuff is way easier. Parts are more readily available and cheaper, and most of the solder jobs on the older stuff is a cinch, but the newer stuff is the tough stuff.
So what's the ugliest repair you've had to do on a system?
Oh, I did a Sega Master System a while ago, and I just said that the older systems are the easier ones, but the Sega Master System, for some reason, it was a harder system to find parts for, and when I finally found the part, I was having a hell of a time desoldering. Basically, it was a DC run through that basically, if the system had like an AC current run through it, it would break this ceramic breaker inside the system instead of running through the motherboard and frying the motherboard. Well, anyways, I was having a hell of a time getting that DC run through breaker desoldered to solder in the new one. It wasn't that it was a hard job, it just was complicated to get the stuff desoldered.
Okay, yeah. Do you work on arcade cabinets too, or is that a little bit too old for you?
No, I've never worked on an arcade cabinet, but there seems to be a big scene recently with people like modding old arcade cabinets with like LCD monitors and putting emulators in them and stuff like that. And my friend Caleb was just asking me about that a couple days ago, and I was telling him that I was interested in maybe doing something like that at some point.
My father made his own custom arcade cabinet. It has MAME in there and a little computer, and you just load up the MAME software, and you can play on the arcade joystick and buttons and stuff like that. I got the carpal tunnel from playing Metal Slug. That was the first game I ever played when I was a kid, and on an arcade cabinet, and I played the hell out of all the Metal Slug games, and my wrist hurt so bad one day. I was like, oh no, I'm gonna need to wear a wrist thing, and
That's awesome. Yeah, I really think that's a really cool thing, the modified arcade cabinets, because I think arcade cabinets are really cool. I remember going to arcades as a kid and just thinking that it was the coolest thing ever, and they've kind of phased out now, and you don't see them as much. So just to kind of bring that old school vibe back, and I think, and to have all those games readily available right there in your hands, I think is really, I wouldn't mind having one in my house.
Yeah. It's definitely cool. So
Yeah.
how long have you been repairing video games or systems?
Oh, just a couple of years, actually. The first job that I did was a Game Boy SP. Actually, I was replacing the screen in one that I bought from this guy, and I bought it for real cheap. And I bought it because it had games with it, and I thought, well, that really sucks. The screen's broken, and so I was like, well, I wonder if you can buy replacement screens. Checked Amazon, and sure enough, you can get replacement parts on Amazon. And I wasn't sure if I was going to do it, so I just took a crack at it, and sure enough, I fixed it, and then everything else just hit. Like, well, what else can I fix? Started working on everything else.
My just to pick your brain a little bit, my PS4 it keeps ejecting discs randomly. Is there any advice you can give me for fixing that problem, or do I just have to buy a new PlayStation?
No, you wouldn't have to buy a new PlayStation. I would probably recommend that you look into the problem a little bit, like look on forums and see what people say. That's usually what I do when I come into a problem like that, because I don't like know everything about these systems.
Right.
So I look on the forums, and chances are it's probably just the disk drive itself, and you could probably replace that for $30-$40. I think Kevin's Xbox One is having the same issue. That's what I'm about to do for his system. And what's really cool about the new systems is that things like the hard drives, the power supplies, and the disk drives, it's all modular. So once you crack open the case, it's literally just popping that thing out and putting a new one in. It's not hard at all. The hard stuff is when you get into like the chips and stuff like that.
Yeah, I gave myself a 2 terabyte hard drive, so I've tinkered around with it before. I was just seeing if you had anything that maybe you came across before or not. But yeah, I'll definitely look into the forums and stuff like that. See what's up.
Yeah. If it's a disk drive issue, man, that's an easy fix and a cheap fix compared to buying a whole new PlayStation.
So, do you repair stuff for a living, or do you do a different line of work?
Oh yeah, no, I'm actually a nurse as well, an RN, and but I did for a little while buy and sell systems. Like I would buy broken systems, repair them, and sell them just for a little bit of money on the side. I've gotten out of that since we've had a kid. Don't really have a lot of time for it anymore. But if I ever get some more time in the future, it's something I would definitely go back to. I really enjoyed doing it. It's kind of like mowing the lawn. It's kind of relaxing.
Yeah. How long have you been a nurse for, or an RN?
I actually graduated in 2017, believe it or not. So actually it'll be a year this July. But I've been a nurse assistant for 7 years. So I guess technically 8 years if you want to count a nurse assistant.
So what does your job entail then?
I work on a trauma floor, an orthopedic trauma floor. So I get a lot of car accidents, ATV accidents, motorcycle accidents, people doing dumb stuff, drunk, jumping off of balconies, breaking bones, stuff like that. So I do basically just kind of pass medications and do dressing changes and kind of like I don't know what you would call it, like a field aid or something like that. If you were in a combat zone and somebody had their leg broken, you'd wrap it up and give them some medication.
Oh man, what's the nastiest thing you've encountered?
So there's a lot of laws that protect people from nurses giving out personal information, so I can't talk a lot of details.
Okay, that's fine.
But I've seen some nasty things, like I've seen chest cavities opened and stuff like that.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Ooh. I remember there's this one episode, I think it was a Serious Doctor show, and 2 people came in, and there was a pole through both of their stomachs, like they were connected through the pole. I'm like,
oh yeah,
is this supposed to, like, is that like totally off the wall, or is that something like that could possibly happen? They just come in, they're like, yeah, this just happened. I don't.
No, I've seen a rebar through somebody's head before, so yeah, it happens.
And then, how many times a day do you have people who come in and go, I don't know how it got up my ass, but there is
It's funny you mentioned that. I was actually just having that conversation at work the other day. That happens a lot more than you'd think. A lot more.
Oh man, I just remember back to the first Jackass, and he put the toy car up his ass, and
yeah. It happens a lot.
So you're a father now. What do you do to prepare for that? For being a father, I should just say.
Nothing. You can't prepare. I don't know. If I could give any advice to any, upcoming fathers, it would just be support your woman through the whole thing, and just know that you'll never experience what they're going through, and be sympathetic and empathetic to that, and try to take as much of the load as you can. I think my wife and I do a great job of, doing 50-50 with our daughter. We both work full time and somehow manage to, spend a lot of time with her and not have to put her in daycare. And it's hard, but just share the load with your wife, and don't expect that she's going to do it all.
Right. Yeah. What's the hardest part of raising a child so far?
Relinquishing your life. You don't have any personal time or personal space anymore. Everything you have to do with your child, including tonight. I had to make my dinner and eat my dinner with my daughter because, she's getting to the age now where she's eating the same foods as us. So I have to feed her what I'm eating. And so that means I have to cook it at the same time. It gets cold if I wait. So I have to eat myself and feed her at the same time. So you don't have any personal time or personal space.
You see videos of hero dads all the time, grabbing their kid in the nick of time before something bad happens. Anything like that happened to you so far?
Not really. I had a situation where I tried to help her in the nick of time, but just didn't get to her fast enough. She was crawling around on the floor one day, and we have these wooden fold-up tables, I guess you could say, and they're hardwood, pretty heavy. And she was rolling around on the floor one night, and it was folded up, leaning up against the wall, and she kicked it, and it started to fall over on her, and I jumped off the couch to go and grab it before it hit her, but of course, too late, and it smacked her right in the back of the head and kind of squished her face into the ground, and I thought, oh my God, she's dead. I thought for sure she was dead,
my gosh.
I felt terrible because I saw it coming. Like, I knew she was getting close to those tables, and I thought to myself, I need to get up and move those before she kicks them over. And sure enough.
So has that changed the way you react to things around your kid?
Oh, absolutely. You have to be constantly watching what they're doing. We've pretty close to baby-proofed our house, but she always seems to find something to get into.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the channel. What is your favorite game to play on the channel, or has been to play on the channel so far?
Oh, that's a hard question. What have we enjoyed the most? Probably Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time Master Quest. We had a lot of fun doing that one. It was, I think, 4 or 5 episodes, and we just really enjoyed it. And it was a challenge, and I could tell Kevin really enjoyed it because he had never played Master Quest before. So yeah, that one was really fun.
So what games are you introducing to Kevin? Because I know he's more of the retro side of things, and you've kind of brought in like Fallout and Uncharted and games like Agony. How is he reacting to those games?
I think a lot of times he more likes to watch me play them than actually play them himself. But he dives right into them. I mean, we played Uncharted together, and he played a good majority of that as well. But on the flip side to that, a lot of the older games he's really good at, and so like I'll let him play. And like Super Mario, for instance, we played Super Mario World. I think he probably played about 80% of that whole thing, and I'm not as good at the older games, even though I grew up with them just the same. So we try to split the load whenever we do play live 50-50, but it's on the older games he plays most of them, and on the newer games I play most of them. So
are there any games so far that you've maybe started playing and said, well, we're not going to continue this game after this episode?
Oh yeah, quite a few actually. Agony was one of them. It just seemed unpolished to me. I didn't really understand what was going on, and it's not that it's probably a good game, but I was having a hard time with it. Just, the sneaking aspect and getting caught every 5 seconds and dying and having to restart. That's just not fun for people watching, because it's like, man, I'm not making any progress.
Right.
That one, and then Secret of Mana we played an episode of, and Kevin and I were actually really excited about it because it's 2-player. But we started playing and realized when we went back and watched the video that it was just really boring and slow paced. Not really for viewers. So.
Yeah, understandable. So now Kevin has a Switch, got for his birthday. Happy birthday to Kevin. I know it'll be a little late now, but
no, his birthday is not until July 1st. You're early.
I was saying by the time that this podcast actually reaches the YouTube platform, it'll be about a month.
Gotcha.
A month late. But are you guys gonna plan on doing? I see you already have Mario Odyssey on up, and you played a little bit, did a Let's Play of that. Are there any other Switch games that you're ready to go, ready to play, ready to live stream?
Well, I did one episode of Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. I was actually doing Trial of the Swords, or Trial of the Sword. I always say Trial of the Swords. But I plan on going back to that and at some point finishing Trial of the Sword. It's one thing I've wanted to finish in Breath of the Wild, but never could. And I think doing it on the channel for people watching is the best motivator for me. So I'll probably revisit that at some point and finish. There's two more. I guess you could say levels of Trial of the Sword. There's 3 total. I already finished 1.
So one thing I meant to ask this before we started talking about the channel, but how did you and Brett like get together and say, "Hey, you want to join my YouTube channel?" Or
that's a good question. I can't really remember exactly what happened. Like I said, we knew each other before the YouTube channel was ever even a thing.
Right.
Kevin had come to me at some point and said, he was starting to do a blog and was going to do some like Let's Play videos. And before it came to the point that it is now, I think it was mostly going to be like a journal thing for him. But I think since then it's kind of evolved into just the YouTube thing. I'm not sure if he still does the blog or not. But it was just a mention that he had mentioned to me, and I was really interested in doing some of the videos, and that's kind of where it took off.
So for Kevin, the channel is more his. He was saying that it was, NES Journey was originally the name of the channel, and it was his journey into the games that he didn't get to play when he was younger, or didn't have the time to play. What is the channel to you? Is there something special about the channel to you that you're playing these games for?
Yeah, that's a really good question too. Yeah, it's it's something to play a game and something else to play a game with a friend. Like if you're sitting on a couch together playing with a friend, that to me that's special. That's something I always grew up with. I had friends that I played games with. We sat on couches together and just hung out. And you don't do that anymore. Most of these games nowadays are online. And so even if we weren't doing the videos for YouTube, it would just still be me and Kevin sitting on the couch hanging out, just because that's something I enjoy doing. And so to be able to sit on my couch and play a video game and have Kevin there with me, or have the viewers there chatting with me, it's almost like, back in the old day when you would just hang out with somebody. So yeah, it's kind of special to me in that sense.
Were you around watching YouTube before you joined YouTube, or is this like your first experience on YouTube? Well,
a lot of
YouTubes in that sentence.
Yeah. I've been watching YouTube for a long time. One of my biggest inspirations for wanting to do video game related videos is Angry Video Game Nerd. I've been watching him since he first aired on YouTube, and I've watched every one of his Angry Video Game Nerd episodes since then.
Dang, that's a long time now.
Yeah, I think he's been going for 8 or 10 years, something like that. But yeah, it's been since I was, I'll be 30. So it's been since I was probably like 16 or 17 that I started watching YouTube.
Wow. Yeah. That was back in the old days before all the adpocalypse and Google Plus and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Let's see. Last question for you today.
All right.
What's your favorite system? I'll start off with that. What is your favorite system of all time that you've either owned or played on that has the best games out there?
Probably Super Nintendo. I know it's so cliche and so generic, but Super Nintendo to me just has a lot of memories. I grew up with a Super Nintendo. I remember sitting next to my dad on the couch watching him play Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. It's just something that has really... I guess you could say it's been the biggest part in making me who I am today. I think Super Nintendo's had a lot of influence on my life.
Did you grab a Super Nintendo Classic?
Oh yeah, I've got one of those. I've got the NES Classic, and I've actually got a special Super Nintendo. It's called a Analog Super NT. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
No, I've never heard of that.
So it's a Super Nintendo. It's got a special chip in it, and it true upscales to 1080p, but the internals of the actual system itself are Super Nintendo through and through. So the company that made it, Analog, they got the blueprints of the Super Nintendo basically, and they created their own chip to the exact specifications of Super Nintendo, but with modern chipsets. So
Wow.
yeah, it's a really, really advanced Super Nintendo. Like I said, upscales in 1080p. The sound is incredible. The picture is incredible. Color depth is incredible, and it just runs beautifully.
Well, second to last question now. I just thought of this one. What would be another, like, a mini console that you would want to see either Nintendo or Sega or anyone make, really?
I was actually just saying the other day that I think it'd be really cool, and I know there is like At Games Create. It's another game company that makes systems. At Games has like a a miniature Sega Genesis. I would actually like to see a miniature Sega Genesis with games preloaded on it. But like I said, At Games has one already. It's just not made by Sega. I think it'd be really cool if Sega released a classic system like Nintendo.
I'd like to see a little mini GameCube, because that was the bulk of my childhood. I started off with the, of course, I played the arcade cabinet first, but then my parents were like, "Oh, let's get him the N64." That was the console that I had through my childhood, and then the GameCube was a big, huge bulk of my, elementary and middle school career of gaming, and I could see them making it. I don't know if they will or not, because it seems like most of the games on there might have, it's all about that copyright stuff. It's like, are we able to put these games on here anymore because of this, because of that?
Yeah.
Though the one game I don't want to see on there is Star Fox Adventures. Okay.
Oh, come on. Dinosaur Island is amazing. I love that game.
I can't even. Assault, I liked Assault. A lot of people don't like the Star Fox Assault. I actually liked it on the GameCube. I thought it was actually a real fun game.
Yeah. Did you say Star Fox Assault?
Yeah.
Was that on the GameCube or was that on the Wii?
That was on the GameCube, because
Really?
Yeah, I remember playing it with on the couch. There was a multiplayer mode that you could shoot each other with the Star Fox characters.
Yeah, that's awesome. I didn't know that. But yeah, I would like to see one of those classic GameCubes as well. That would be really cool. Classic, if Nintendo went through and did classic everything, like classic N64, GameCube, eventually classic Wii, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I think it's a way to kind of keep the retro vibe going. In 10, 15 years, we're going to look back and be like, yeah, you remember the Wii? Oh yeah, cool. Nintendo's coming out with a new Wii Classic. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah, it has both the Mario Galaxy games and WarioWare.
And that's it. And we play.
So the final question I have for you today is, since the Super Nintendo is your favorite console level ever, let's say that Nintendo goes, all right, all games on the Super Nintendo except for one are being destroyed and are going to be gone forever. What would that one game that you save, what would that game be?
Oh, of course, Link to the Past, Legend of Zelda Link to the Past. There's no other. That's actually my all-time favorite game, hands down. There's no other game that compares to it, in my opinion.
None. Now, Breath of the Wild came real close. When I was playing Breath of the Wild, that was really, really a close second for me, because it almost beat Link to the Past for me. But, after I beat Breath of the Wild and kind of look back in retrospect, I thought, yeah, it's a great game, but Link to the Past is still ultimate. So you were kind of pulled into this community that we have going, because you didn't start off on the channel, of course, like I've said 5 billion times now. How was that experience kind of coming into it already? The name of the channel is already known. The person who was behind the original channel is already known on here. How is that coming into the community as a new person along with the channel?
I'm finding it great, actually. I really enjoy being part of the community and getting to know a lot of these people. The biggest problem with me, and I already said it once, is that I am completely illiterate when it comes to social media. I'm familiar with Facebook to a degree, but I have such a hard time, like even Discord, to do this interview. I'm so illiterate. I don't know what I'm doing. A lot of times I turn off notifications because I can't. It drives me nuts to have my phone ringing every 5 seconds.
Yeah.
So I miss a lot of stuff too. And then also I've been trying a lot to interface with a lot of people, watch their streams and go to their channels and watch their videos and hit like and do all that stuff on my personal YouTube account. But I just find I don't have a lot of time to do those things. So I do it when I can, but I wish I could spend more time doing that, going to other people's videos, because I know a lot of people spend a lot of time on our channel and it's only fair. But I know Kevin does a lot of that too, so.
Yeah, Kevin's all over the place. He's a cool
Yeah.
dude. You're a cool dude, and together you are the coolest dudes.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you. You too.
All right. So that was that. Hey, that's all the time we have today with Brett from Rapscallions. Like I said, social medias will be down in the description below. Even though he's social media illiterate, you can still check out the Twitter for the channel and the channel itself on YouTube. Brett, is there anything else you'd like to say before we say sayonara?
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'd also like to throw out too that we have a Facebook group. It's Rapscallions, just like the channel. I think a lot of people don't know about the Facebook group, but if you find it, definitely throw out an invite and I'll accept you, because I put out a lot of like updates, and there's a calendar on there, so there's a lot of events coming up. So that's one way to see what we're going to have coming up in the future. So check out our Facebook page too.
I'll throw that link down in the description too.
Awesome. Thanks, Yemmy.
All right. Well, that has been another episode of the Ferret Business Podcast. I'm your host, Yemmy the Ferret. And I did that backwards. I did my outro backwards. So I'll just end with this. I'm Yemmy the Ferret, and this has been the Ferret Business Podcast. Nailed it.
Have a good night. All right, bye.